everybody, and welcome to another episode of Fabric Fridays with me, Mary Morningstar Johnson from Ruby and Violet Designs. So I hope that everybody had a safe and happy New Year's, and I am so excited, a little bit overwhelmed, a little bit nervous to get going into 2021. And I know everybody kind of starts out in January with their New Year's resolutions and then kind of fall off the rails as the year goes. Last year I had a lot of really big goals. Obviously that all kind of got shuffled around with how 2020 went. I am not gonna, focus on how things kind of moved in a different direction last year. Instead, I'm gonna kind of take where I sort of left off and keep pushing forward and accomplish a lot of things going into this new year. So last year in July, I had this idea to start this channel, and I really wanted to focus on fabric and quilting and sewing projects and just kind of talk about different patterns and sort of review them, and just trying to create content. Hopefully you like it, hopefully you find it useful, hopefully it maybe inspires you to get started on some projects yourself. I have this project that I'm going to show you the fabric today, but I've had it in a bag and I've had it with the pattern that I'm going to use for it for several years. So I think when I got the first fabric for this project, I actually chose the fabric before the pattern. So this is an example I talked about in a previous video where sometimes patterns inspire fabric and sometimes fabric inspires the kind of pattern you want to look for. This is an instance where I sought out the fabric and then figured out the pattern that I was going to use for it. So in 2011, yes, 10 years ago, in January, actually January 1st, so exactly 10 years ago today, so that's kind of fitting. I actually didn't plan that, but I found the first fabric for this quilt, and I saw the fabric and immediately knew that I wanted to get it because I had a specific person in mind that I kind of know what she likes, and I know her style, or at least what I think her style is. And this fabric just screamed her, and I found this fabric. And so I'm really excited to show it to you and then show you the pattern that I've kind of came up with, because this, again, this is about 10 years worth of collecting, not that many fabrics, but fabrics for this quilt pattern. So here we go. So the first fabric I'm going to show you is a Wyndham fabric. This was the fabric that I saw that kind of got this whole project started. So it's called Calico Garden, and it's an association with the Shelburne Museum, Vermont. I'm not exactly sure. It's a Wyndham fabric, and again, I got it 10 years ago, so I don't know if they even still print this fabric, but anyway, it is so rich. It's actually a navy blue and a gold. This fabric, I just saw it and I knew. So this was the start of it. So then I really wanted to continue with like a gold mustard theme. So I actually found, this was the next fabric that I found, and I didn't buy enough of it that I had on the selvage who it was by. So I guess I could go back to the Stitching Post and see if they have more, but it was a national parks fabric, and it has like Yellowstone on it, and Glacier National Park, and Crater Lake, and just different, the Grand Teton National Park. So this fabric also is very characteristic of the person that I have in mind to make this for, and so and plus the color, the gold, it matches so well. I knew for sure that I was gonna kind of go in that direction, so that kind of pushed me further into the direction that I had thought of from the get-go. So then from there I was working actually on a different project and had this mustardy gold batik from Let's Sew in Evansville, Indiana, and so I knew that this was going to tie in with the circles because I was kind of going with that circle theme, and I think it's always good to kind of give yourself a few parameters when you're getting ready to start a quilt. I've heard that from several quilters that I've listened to, that and it's so important because it kind of gives you some guidelines to stay within. And when you're first starting out, you don't necessarily, I guess, have to stay in a certain box, but it does kind of help shape where you're headed with your design, with the pattern that you may choose, and then moving forward with picking your fabrics. Because although I tend to like to not necessarily match fabrics so closely, I do like to have a little bit of consistency throughout, because I think that that's going to help your quilt as a whole. So anyway, I knew that this mustard gold color was also gonna play a big role in the quilt. And so then I wanted to have another accent color, a color that was gonna just pop with the fabric, but I didn't want it to be too loud. So I came across this next fabric hoping that I could probably make it work, and it does, and it really is just the perfect fabric for this quilt. And it is also a Wyndham fabric. This Wyndham Fabrics, it's collage by Carrie Bloomston for Such Designs, and it's like a teal turquoise blue, but I love the simple line work in it that is just, it's, you know, it's a little bit off, it's not quite perfect. It almost looks like little scratches, maybe like a turquoise type modern wood grain. I don't know, but I knew that this was the fabric that was going to be kind of like my focal point within the quilt. And the color, I think, is just perfect, and I think it works really well with the other colors too. So those were the darks, I guess, for the quilt, and then kind of the main fabric. So then I needed some lighter fabrics. So so I chose this print by Angela Walters for Art Gallery Fabrics, and it incorporates all of the colors, well, I guess not the turquoise, but has the navy, the gold, and then it also has this teeny tiny little dot of this beautiful pink that I love. And anyway, I thought that this fabric was perfect for a light color. This is also an Art Gallery fabric, just sort of like a basic, but again, it has that line work that's just a little bit off, that's just not quite perfect, and I really like this one too. And I know it's more of a gray, but with how I'm doing the quilt, you'll see it works for like a light colored fabric within the quilt. And then I chose this fabric also early on, and again, I don't have who it's by in the selvage, but it has these little gold, oh, you can't see it, these little gold circles, and this fabric early on, I felt like it went so well with that navy fabric with the circles, and so I definitely had to get some of it. And then the final fabric, this is going to be kind of like the main light fabric within the quilt. It's going to be throughout the quilt and then in some of the sashing. And it on the selvage does not say what it is, or which fabric company it's with, but it works, I think, within the quilt. And it is basically kind of a forest of trees. So get the light kind of right on it. It is super simple, but it's a really nice white, but it has these trees, this organic, this nature that goes along with the national parks, that goes along with the turquoise blue, with that sort of wood grain. And I'm really excited because I think that this is just going to set it off. So I'm excited to show you guys the pattern next, and then show you what one of the blocks looks like for this. So stay tuned. So as I mentioned, I started collecting fabric for this quilt in 2011. I didn't have a pattern. I didn't know for sure what kind of quilt I was going to make. In 2015, my quilt club decided to do a mystery quilt. And I thought, oh, these fabric requirements, they go really well with the fabrics that I've chosen for this quilt. And I kind of kept that in mind, and I didn't I didn't start the mystery quilt. I wanted to do the mystery quilt. I kept all of the papers. It went from February, when we were given the fabric requirements, until October, when we got the final how to put the quilt together. And when I saw the finished quilts, I thought, oh my gosh, that is the perfect quilt. And it's not, it's, you know, it's a fairly simple pattern, but the colors, how they popped within this quilt, and then, you know, the fabrics that I had been collecting for it, I just knew that it was going to work. And it's not so much a mystery because I know what the quilt looks like finished, but I still wanted to use the fabric pattern. And it's a pattern that was in the McCall's Quilting magazine in November and December of 2014. And it's called Gift from the Heart, which is fitting for, I mean, the quilt, this quilt, and how I'm finishing it and who it's for. So anyway, so I'm excited to get this quilt finished, and I think that the turquoise blue is gonna just look beautiful within, and then I'm gonna use it, I'm gonna do a little bit more of a decorative border around my quilt, but this quilt is gonna be really phenomenal. I'm really excited. I actually, and another thing I want to mention too, I earlier this year when I did the Home Sweet Home quilt by Sharon Holland, I had never really like cut out all of my pieces for a quilt before, and I've started doing that now, and it's so nice to have your pieces all cut out, because then you can just kind of sit and sew that. It's actually a little bit more efficient than kind of starting, stopping, cutting, starting, stopping, cutting. You just get everything cut, and then you kind of have everything together, and it's also takes up a little bit less space, so you can kind of put all of your cut pieces together and just keep going. So here is what the quilt block looks like. And I love the directional with the dots, and then how the turquoise is just going to really pop within the quilt and make the lines. You'll have these other lines kind of going through. And the pinwheel is actually one of the first blocks that that I ever learned, you know, complicated, I guess, quilty kind of block that I ever made. So I really like sewing up pinwheels, and I really like doing it the Missouri Star Quilt Company way, which is where you sew all of your edges together, a square, and then you cut diagonals, and then you move them around and sew them together. It's really easy, pretty efficient. So I recommend that for sure. But yeah, so I'm excited, and I think the person I'm making it for is going to be excited, hopefully someday when I get it done. No, I'm going to stick with my goal and get things done this year. So hopefully I will be able to post this on my Instagram soon so that you can see it completed. Thank you guys for watching my first episode of this year, Fabric Fridays. So please tune in with me next week for another episode. And I hope that, you know, moving forward into this year, that I can share with you so many more goals and things that I have set forth, and I hope that, you know, I'm excited to actually see how my videos will evolve this year. So please stay with me. Make sure you like and subscribe to my channel. Hit the bell. It'll give you notifications for my videos. And good luck getting started into this new year. Bye, guys.